Today is Friday, September the 1st, 2023, and welcome to episode 59 of Reliance with Canny Couple. My name is Julia.
And I'm Aaron.
We're a small homestead family in rural Southwest Virginia that work every single day to be more self-reliant, less dependent, and debt-free.
Definitely. It's something we are extremely pushing toward every single day.
Very passionate about it.
Yes.
And our goal is to be debt-free by the end of this year.
Yes.
And we are well on track for that.
Yes, definitely.
So we are watching our pennies and our dollars and staying on budget. And our heavy debt repayment is also built into our budget.
Yeah, like we've said before, it is something that we are extremely focused on and have goals to meet those.
Absolutely. And talking about that, today we wanted to go over like how we've determined what we're cutting from our budget, how we make those cuts, and what we've actually decided to keep. And we've seen a lot of really frightening articles, and we had done some looking like statistic wise in our area, and we can see how a lot of people are really struggling.
Yeah.
And if you have debt, we don't know how you make ends meet. So, just the average cost of living for a single person, like how much you need to live per state. We pulled this article up, and Aaron will give you some examples.
Yes, so it goes through, how much money a single worker needs to make ends meet.
This is how much you need to live your basic life.
Hawaii is a frightening number.
It's very scary.
$112,411. Yes.
And most couples probably aren't bringing that in.
Right. I knew Alaska would be high, and I didn't figure it would be $71,570 though.
No, I thought it probably cost like 50 or 60.
But that was number 5. It went Hawaii, Massachusetts, California, New York, Alaska.
Yeah.
But now when we got down to our areas, like the Appalachia areas that we're in and everything, it was still like, really, so Kentucky, 47,318. Tennessee was 48,774. West Virginia, 47,732. And then Virginia was 57,293. But you have to take into consideration D.C. and everything there.
Yeah.
But you think about how drastic number it is up there compared to the lower end of the state to even out at 57,000.
Right. Like, because we know like the Arlington, D.C. area is crazy expensive. Like, crazy expensive. In our area, we are starting to see much higher expenses. We actually, just on a whim, we're looking up how much it costs to rent.
Right, yeah. We happened to see somebody on Facebook there, friends-wise, have a house for rent. And not the main part of town, sort of like the outskirts of one of the major towns, for $1,600 rent, which around here we were like, whoa.
We had no idea. Like, I remember growing up, my parents did rent. I remember how much it was. It was like $700, $800 for a 2-story, 4 to 5 bedroom house, finished basement, and that was like the normal. Like, you didn't. I remember one of my aunts lived in a trailer for like $300 a month. And trailers are anywhere from $800 to $1,000 to some dollars a month.
Yes, and that's in the smaller towns.
Yes.
We got to the larger one, the more popular one, I guess you can say, running $2,000 a month.
That was the low end. $2,000 was the low end, and it went up, up, up. So if your cost of living in the area is thought to be $49,000 and your rent alone is $1,600, the majority of your paycheck is going
Yeah.
towards your rent.
You got about half of it going to your.
About half. And how do people make ends meet? There, you hear about a housing crisis, but when you actually go and look, you start to see that there really is highly inflated. And we're not trying to say people who are renting out places, they shouldn't make money. We completely disagree with that. Like,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
in a business.
Yeah, we was even reading an article that it was almost half of renters right now are not able to make men's
Ends meet.
ends meet as well. Yeah, sorry.
So if you're renting or if you are somebody who owns rental properties, we completely understand that your situation is very different from ours. I've lived where we did rent, and that is okay. We're not saying anything bad about it. It's very scary to think that people are going to have to struggle so hard because there doesn't seem to be an end in sight for inflation.
No.
Their savings are dwindling.
Credit card debt's increasing.
That's increasing. People aren't able to put up money like they were just a couple years ago. There was this huge surge of people saving money.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Yep.
That's completely gone. Like,
Yeah.
you can't. Like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, it's like within a 2-year period, all this money that people were able to save is just completely wiped out. There was another article we saw
That 61% of Americans now are living paycheck to paycheck. So
over half.
over half, getting close to the 2/3. Even that's frightening for our society right now.
It is.
And
it's scary.
they said it has increased. It was 2 or 3% since last year at this time, and to make it go up that much, that's shows you what it's like right now.
I mean, even cost of living wages, like, increases, they're not going to help that much. And sometimes the area can't actually sustain a massive increase. Like, our area, if you charged minimum wage the same you would in like the DC area, you're going to kill this town.
Yep.
Like, they cannot, like, the business owners cannot sustain that because it's a small town. It's not sustainable for that kind of an area. And we're not saying that there shouldn't be a minimum wage. We're not saying anything like that. All we're saying is, every area is a little bit different. Your cost of living is going to be different. You live in a big city, you're going to have a lot more perks that a lot of people don't have. But it's going to be much more expensive. Whereas if you live here, it's going to be a little bit cheaper. You're going to pay for, we don't get a lot of the good deals on some things. We don't get, a lot of the yard sales, a lot of the groceries, deals like that. We're kind of sort of stuck with, 2 grocery stores, $2 Generals. We have as many dollars.
That's putting it lightly, probably, too.
Well, in one area, we have $2 Generals and 2 grocery stores within the same radius. So, it's a little different, and you don't have the nightlife, but the cost of living here is going to be a lot less than even an hour and a half away from us.
Yeah.
So there is a big difference. You have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was wanting to mention about the 401k balances by generation as well.
Yes, the average.
The average for Gen Z right now is 7,100. Millennials is 44,900. Gen X is 145,500. And the boomers is 215. But if you look at the median, Gen Z 2,500. Millennials 15,500. Gen X 44,000. And boomers 61,000.
That's
very low.
Very low. And this came from Financial Samurai.
Yep.
And it was published. When was it published?
This one was he actually updated it today.
Oh, he updated it today. So, when we saw these numbers, it was one of those, it's kind of eye-opening, like, how little people are actually able to save. Because that's an easy place for you to kind of get yourself a pay raise. Not put towards your 401k. So you're not putting that money away for retirement. You have access to it now. You're not able to save it now, because the cost of living is so high and it's becoming a real struggle to make ends meet.
Yeah.
It just is. So, where do we cut? Where do we make changes? And that's kind of what we want to talk about. How do you determine that? So, the number one thing you need to look at is always going to be, what are you spending money on?
Yes. You've got to know what you're bringing in, what you're spending your money on.
Budget. And we know we've said this over and over and over again. We have. But we cannot stress how important having a budget is. Without a budget, we would never be able to pay off debt as hard
Right.
as we do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no way. We know what's coming in, what's going out. We know what we're spending money on. And for us personally, we talk about every penny that goes out the store if we're going to spend it. Not one person makes a discretionary. We don't. We just don't.
Yeah.
We have the same Amazon cart. If I wanted to buy a canning ladle, Aaron, it's in there. I'm like, can you look at that? Tell me what you think. Is this really worth the cost? Like, is this something that I would use? And we actually discussed it. A $16 purchase.
Yep.
And that was just the one I found that I thought might actually work. A $16 purchase, we're going to actually talk about and determine if this is really worth the cost. Aaron doesn't go and just buy things that he thinks. He actually look at every dollar we spend, every penny. And we started this when we first really got together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It became important.
I mean, it's really something that has helped us get to where we're at right now, is knowing what we're spending as a couple and what we're bringing in and prioritizing.
Yes, absolutely. So we know every cost. We know streaming services. Nothing's coming out of our bank account without us knowing about it. Nothing's coming on our credit card without us knowing about it. I mean, and it's all on a spreadsheet. It's not just, oh, here's my budget for groceries. It's, here's what we spent today. Here's where we spent it at. Here's what we used.
Yeah.
And that really keeps us honest with each other. Because without that, we could just say, oh, well, we spent like $300 for whatever this was. Like, well, why did we spend $300? What was on this again? We were looking at the budget to him like, well, what did we have that was unexpected?
Medical.
Yeah, it was a medical bill. But we have an emergency budget to help cover for that. That's why we have built up a really solid emergency fund. Because when we first got together, I don't know what we would have done without my emergency fund.
Yeah.
Because I had started that as soon as I started working and built that up slowly, and every penny counts. So, know what's going in and out. That's number one. You do not know what to cut if you do not know what's going out. You just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And if the lighting looks a little weird, we're trying to work on it. So, if I'm looking a little blue, I'm okay. We're working on the lighting. Aaron's playing with it. Number 2, determine your needs versus your wants.
Now, this one here is a very hard one maybe to do, but needs are your basics. It's your utilities, your food, utilities, we're basically saying water and electricity. Cell phones definitely isn't a necessity anymore. I mean, in all honesty, because there's many ways to make phone calls over the internet still. If you have that through some utility service, you can use that.
Well, if you can get good mobile service, you could switch to a cheaper mobile service and it might be cheaper than you actually paying for internet.
That's true too. It depends on your area.
It depends on your area. You got to have really good service. Like in our area,
it would be, well, if we had cell phone service here, it would be cheaper to go with the cell phone, but we have to go with the internet.
We do, because that's the most reliable source for us.
Yep.
And we do have to have it for work every single day. So you've got to determine your bare bones budget. This is really where you determine your absolute bare bones. Streaming services,
That's a want.
That's a want. Um, I anything that's not needed to survive, and we're not telling you you have to get rid of them. You
No.
just have to determine them here.
Right.
That's the goal here. What are they?
Yes. What are your needs? I mean, if you're a working single person, childcare might be a a need for you
Absolutely.
because for somebody else they might have somebody that can stay with the child or something, so that's one of your needs, unlike maybe two people are at home, childcare might be a want.
It might make more sense for one of the parents to stay home and be a stay-at-home parent versus going to work. It depends on your budget, how you do things, because we can tell you in our area, it's hundreds of dollars a week.
Yep.
A week, and it is week long wait list. Not week, like month long. Sorry. Month long wait list. Like, you have to sign up for this and pray you're going to get in. And you still have to pay if your kid doesn't go. And I mean, I've heard the stories from people that I work with. A lady, she had one of her kids in like an after school program, and if they were late by 5 minutes, they were getting charged for 5 minutes, and then the charges kept going up for 5 more minutes. And I get it. I understand. They don't want to have the workers there because this is a job for them too. But it's gotten extreme in our area, like crazy extreme. So it really depends on your situation. If you can afford it, if it's built into your budget, it is something to add into, and it's a cost you have to consider. It could be something you consider a need. For us, we are very fortunate. We don't have that need, but we couldn't, if we had to do daycare, there's no way we could afford it. Because driving to a daycare would be at least 30 to 40 minutes for us to even find one, and then the cost would be a person's paycheck.
Yep.
So, anything else to add for needs and wants?
No, I mean, you just got to sit down, make you a list of everything you have. Start marking it off, which is a need, which is a want,
Have a highlighter.
Think about it, not think of it outside the box. Don't think of it like, okay, Netflix is a need because I have to have it on for the kids. No. You don't have to. There's free services,
Pluto.
Yeah, so that would be a want. You think about it thoroughly on each of them.
See if there's an alternative.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into number 3. You're going to prioritize your wants.
Yep.
What is most important for you that you can put into your budget, and what can you cut? We recently did this ourselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, look at that from, okay, I've got 6 things here that I really want. Which of those are the most important? Because if you don't look at it that way, then all of them are, your top 2. You have to actually prioritize and see which one is the most important, and then say, okay, I can live with this. Other things I can cut.
You're going to look at it. You're going to be like, okay, what am I going to get the most use out of? That's a good question to ask when you're doing this.
Yeah.
If it's something like a service you're paying for, or something of that nature, how does this help me? How does this help my family? How does this help my family grow into the family I want it to be? Here, if you've listened to my podcast from earlier this week, we talked about not keeping up with the Joneses and really living for you and your family. Well, here is one of those examples where if you're spending a lot of extra money that you don't need to spend, and that's a place you can cut because you're trying to keep up appearances, maybe that's an area you can cut. Do you need to have your hair colored, your nails done, your hair cut every 6 weeks, every month? And I'm not saying if that's super important to you, that keep doing it. We're not saying not to. All we're saying is make sure it's a real priority for you and your family. and you know that it's there. You know that that's a priority for you and your family. And if things got really hard, you know these wants you could cut if you had to. That's
Yeah.
always the goal. So we have I have wants that I have that in our family. I have Audible. We pay for me to have Audible. We pay for the full year subscription because I use it almost every day, and I have for years. And it was an investment for us. It still is, and it's one that we use. I mean, I really gotten our money's worth out of that subscription, but it's a want that I want, but I know if something happened, that would go away. We also look at our personal wants as things for like our birthday.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, something that we want, for example, we sort of make us a list for our birthday, Christmas, anniversary, and we put it on it.
Yep. So
But we have a budget.
we do.
You know, it's not like, hey, we're going to put a $500 or $1,000 thing on there. You know?
I don't know of anything that I would want that would cost $500 or $1,000, but I'm sure Aaron could find a few things that he would want that would
Some
cost
ham radios, some more technology stuff, you know.
I have
easy.
no doubt in my mind he would find something that's $1,000. The lighting behind us that we're experimenting with, this was an investment Aaron did for his birthday.
Yep.
It's not here yet, but this was something that he wanted. And even though we are doing this for our podcasts, our videos, he felt like this was something he wanted to have for his birthday.
Yep.
So that was kind of how we looked at that. And for me, I added skillets for my kitchen for my birthday. I wanted some cast iron enamel. I knew I needed a few, and we were trying to build up some cash back for that, but I knew I needed some now, so I added that for now. And that's just a really good way for us to get things that we want but don't necessarily need right now in a way that kind of works out. He doesn't have to think about what to give me for my birthday. And I don't have to guess what he wants for his birthday. And it really works out kind of in a way that helps us both out and also helps us maintain our budget.
Definitely. You know, it's something that it wouldn't keep us on track otherwise.
And it's just really making sure you're focusing on your priorities, and not just the priorities that are forced upon you, but the priorities that you find important for you and your family.
Yeah, I mean, different families are going to have different priorities. You know, it's going to be your family. You know, maybe a priority is, you know, a vacation each year. Yep. Or something. You know, I mean, that might be one of your wants each year. You know, maybe for another family, it's, hey, I just want some more garden tools or something, you know. I mean, it could vary, you know, from family to family.
Absolutely. And we're not, and you can have multiple areas where
Yep.
you have built-in sinking funds, like, okay, well, I know I want this tool, so I've got to save it. Kind of comes to our next point. Have built-in savings into this as well. Don't forget savings as part of your budget, and use those savings to help you get closer to your wants, your goals, your dreams.
Sinking funds are a great way to do this. You know, hey, I know this tool or something is going to cost $500. Well, start putting back $20 every month till I get to that, you know.
We've recently found a tool we're looking at really closely, something that's going to help us on the homestead.
I forget which one you're talking about.
The splitter.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It's $1,000, but the amount of time it would save us long term, the amount of energy, the amount of effort, we already have that money saved. We're just kind of...
Because we built up...
We had built it up.
For homesteading projects.
This has helped our homestead. So it might not be what we were originally intending to use that money for, but it is a need that we have now that is well worth it, and that's what we have that money set aside for, because we have saved it specifically for homestead projects.
Yeah.
We do this for Christmas. We have a Christmas club account. I opened this after my first Christmas of working, and we've not changed it because it has... I mean, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I mean, just having that money set aside and ready to use when it comes time.
Keep control of your discretionary and unexpected costs as much as you can. This is kind of where you have to have an emergency fund.
Yes, and this one's hard, because there's always something that's going to pop up.
Always. Never
Um,
fails.
I mean, even in our budget, we have a section that we put in that says unexpected expenses that hits us, and we make notes about it so we can go back and review it. And then I always say, okay, well, here's our budget. Here's our budget with and without unexpected expenses. Just to show what it would be.
And if you have things that break or things that you would like, is there a way that you can repurpose, DIY, make use of what you have until you can afford to do that? So that kind of helps cut back discretionary, but we do understand, like, a lot of times there's a need, like,
Yeah.
you have to have it. We've been there.
Mm-hmm.
We've been there many times, and we wish we didn't have to be.
Right.
And that's where having a good emergency budget, having that built into your actual budget is going to help you out the most. I mean, I can't stress how important that emergency budget is.
Yes, and just for example, we put in $75 a month into our emergency. No matter what, something happens, medical bills, like we mentioned earlier, we've built up, enough over time that we can draw that out to cover any type of medical bills, that might come about.
Like, we weren't expecting to have Isabel early. That happened. And there were a lot of bills that came due from that. Without that emergency fund built up, we might have really had some struggles there. Because that was not expected. That was very unexpected. When we first got together, within 3 months, we had a vehicle, a lawnmower,
And a heat pump.
and heat pump that all had to have work on them. So we had like $10,000 come out of the door, and we had just gotten together.
Yeah.
So everything hit us all at once, and luckily, I had some savings. Aaron had some savings. We were able to make ends meet. But
Barely.
But we really decided at that point
that we had to, start building up an emergency fund.
Yes.
For things like this.
Absolutely. So this helps. How does this help prioritize your wants and your needs? Well, sometimes we have needs that are emergencies, and having that emergency fund doesn't kill your budget.
Right, because you have that money set aside specifically for times like that.
Absolutely. And that amount you have to determine for you and your family. You do. I know there's different schools of thought. When we first started, it was $1,000 is enough for an emergency. I tell you, our first emergency was $1,500. $1,000 would not have covered it at all. Wouldn't have covered the lawnmower. So for us, it's really $5,000 is a good number to start with, but it's going to depend on where you live. If you live in a place that has a super high cost of living,
it could be more.
It could be way more. It's like, what does it cost to replace your refrigerator if you have to replace it? With the cheapest used one you could find that's going to work. What does it cost? Or whatever you think you might have to replace. What does it cost to fix your vehicle if the transmission goes out?
And there's a tough one because that I've dealt with twice on one vehicle before, so definitely know that one.
And so these are all things that you have to kind of think about and determine for you and your family what that number is. I mean, that's really based on your family's needs. That's where the word need is so important. So you don't break your budget. You still can put that extra payment towards your debt, and then you're just going to build that emergency fund back up. And I would say you want it padded. Personally, I'm a padder when it comes to budget areas. This is one Aaron never fought me on either. He understood, I think, after that first few months of being together, like, yeah, we want this padded quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain about extra cash sitting in this account.
Right, because, emergencies do happen, which affects your budget, which affects your uh, your needs.
It affects everything, and there is such a weight that can come off of you if you have a good emergency fund because you're not as worried or as stressed about making ends meet if something does happen. And I know it's very hard for a lot of families right now to put aside even $5,
Yeah.
$10.
But
And
can you cut eating out one day? Can you cut a streaming service? Something like that you could put that money into an emergency fund to have.
if you never have to touch it, that's savings.
Yep.
That is future savings if you never have to touch it. But most people will have to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it is
something
what it is.
always comes up.
I mean, I feel like every time we turn around, something's blowing up. But luckily, our budget's built to kind of be fluid and work with it because that's the way we have to with where we live. We can't have like a rigid structure budget. It's like look at our electricity bill. There's no way I could say every single month it's going to be $100.
Yeah.
No. I'm going to be lucky.
If we are extremely frugal that month, we can get it close to $100. But normal month, us having to run freeze dryer, things like that, we're closing closer to, and air conditioning closer to 200.
And that's with not actually turning on the air conditioning unit.
That's with running small ones.
That's with running small ones and maintaining the temperature by being, really careful with what we're doing every day.
Yeah. And every time I read things I see about more power companies wanting to charge more to recoup cost, Yeah. So it's something that is going to continuously keep going up, it appears, in our future.
But hopefully, Aaron also saw an article that said that they're going to have to get more efficient with a lot of necessities like air conditioning units and heat pumps and things like that. That they're going to have to start really being innovative in that area to help reduce the energy load. So hopefully in the future,
there's more options,
Yeah.
But right now, that type of technology is not available.
I will tell you that the little fan we got for our canning room.
We'll be getting another one this month.
It is the best thing. It cools that room better than the air conditioning units cool any other rooms. It gets it down to 50-some degrees if you do it at night, and it blows that cool air in, and it makes it even colder because it's a fan. It's cold.
Yeah, this morning in there, for example, I think it was 61 in there.
Which is crazy. The rest of the house is showing 70-something.
Mm.
It's showing 61, so that thing is one of the best things.
Yes, it was freezing in there compared to the temperatures we've had lately.
So when it comes to how we cut costs and how we determine what we want to keep, what would you say is one of the best things that we look at for keeping a cost versus cutting a cost?
That there is probably how much do we use it? For example, is it worth the cost?
See, I would say worth the investment. Is it an investment in ourselves?
So Netflix before that we cut wasn't an investment in ourselves.
No, it wasn't.
Because we didn't have time to use it. We were wasting money keeping it up during that time. So that was, I guess at the time it was $7.99, $8.99. I'm not sure what the price was when we quit it, but that was less than, say $10 a month that we could be putting toward food storage, for example.
I would agree with that. For me, I would definitely say knowing if is really worth it for me and my family. Now, I will say, like, I've mentioned the wants. I have a few wants that I like to have, but I try to offset those and make sure that I'm, doing my best to save money in other places to compensate for that want that I have. So, really try to make sure we stay on top of our grocery budget, and I feel pretty good about that. We, for the most part, we've done really, really well.
Yeah.
For the past since the remodel got finished.
We've done really well. I was looking at the numbers. I mean, we have been extremely, in June we did the pantry challenge, and we just spent $58.35 in grocery that whole month.
And since then, we've really tried to stay at it or way under. And I mean, we've really, really been trying to make sure we watch every dollar that we spend to help, increase our savings, to have more to pay off towards debt, to be able to use in the home, on the homestead and other areas. We look at that extra money as sort of a way to either put towards more debt or put towards other projects in the home.
And food's always the easiest to
it is
modify, but it takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work.
And, eating out does affect this as well. You save more money by cooking at home.
You do. Even if you buy convenience foods.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, we do have convenience foods in our house. I do have some. I don't want to, but until I have home canned convenience foods ready to go, it is sort of what it is, especially for when we're really busy.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I try to get the very, very best price on them. There's no way I'm spending $10 on a frozen pizza.
Right.
I mean, it's just, some of these things have gotten crazy expensive.
Boxes of cereal.
Like, but, and we're not saying you shouldn't have these things. We're just,
There's
be
other
smart with your money.
Yeah.
Be mindful. It's all about being mindful. And when you start to really look at what you're spending and how you're spending it, it's really easy to say, man, I like them. I really like them. But man, do I need them? Or do I really want them if I have to spend the money on that when I could take this and maybe buy 10 of this other item that my family and I would really, really like?
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, groceries have gotten more expensive. These things have gotten more expensive. Everything has gotten more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, every week we look at the grocery ads, we're like, 2 things?
What's on sale? Like, I'm looking like, is that on sale? That's really not. And this is me having to adjust to old sale prices versus new sale prices. And I'm having a hard time with it. I won't lie to you. I'm having a very hard time.
Like a good one the other day was, we saw Spam on sale. And it was 2 for $5?
3 for $5.
3 for $5. I was like, wow, okay. I'm not a big Spam fan, but
we're trying to build up our emergency meat supply.
Sure. Let's get 3 cans. I get there. And it's the little tiny half a cans.
Yes, the half servings, not the tall ones, the half servings. Because we were paying like $2 for the tall ones at other places. Yeah. And it's like, and he told me, he's like, it's the little one. I wasn't going to get it. He didn't even ask me, but he knew what I would have said. I would have been like, oh no, don't do that. Tuna packets. You used to be able to get them like the ones you're ready to eat, tear it open, take it for lunch. You used to be able to get those for $1.
Yeah, consistently.
$1. The name brand for $1. The flavors, everything. Now you're like, you can get them on sale for $5.
Yeah.
And we've not really gotten them.
Mm-mm.
You can get the off-brand ones at Walmart for about, it's under $1.
Okay.
They're under $1.
I can't remember what they were last.
And we went and got the, but you just see it, and that's an adjustment I have to make, and that's where I need to be more fluid with our budget, be more understanding, because I'm having a hard time adjusting to current prices versus.
Well, every time I see something, I'm just like, no, we ain't paying that.
It's an adjustment, and we completely get where people would be struggling.
Yep.
Like I think this week when we were looking at rent prices was really eye opening for us.
Especially in this area.
I mean, because I know what they used to be.
Right.
I know growing up, like you could have gotten, it might not have been a place you wanted to live. You didn't want to live there for long term, but you could have gotten a cheap trailer for under $500.
Yep.
That's going to cost you way more than that now.
Yeah. I mean, most houses out here in the rural area, you know, 400 to 500, you know, is great. I remember when I was looking at storefronts for one of the side businesses I used to have. I had one guy say, "Yeah, you can have it for $300 a month." You'd probably be laughed at now, you know, at that price. There's no
Not
such
even would
thing.
cover your insurance.
Yeah, like $1,000 probably now is the cheapest you're gonna find in this area.
I bet it's more than that. We've not looked, but I bet it's way more than that. Especially like the downtown areas where they're trying to revitalize and
Well,
re.
you get to some of those. I say
You get
really,
to some of those, it's probably really expensive. And I can't tell you in the little town Nexus how many restaurants in their downtown area have came in and went back out.
yes.
Like within months because they
Yes.
can't afford it. There was one really nice area. It's a really nice coffee shop. And I think it only stayed in for like 2 or 3 months before it moved right out because it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah, and right now restaurants are going to be the things that you see closing the most because people does not have the money to go out and spend out to eat right now.
And it's gotten expensive.
The prices keep going up.
I mean,
It ain't like you can go to McDonald's now and eat off the dollar menu, as there isn't really a dollar menu anymore.
yeah, I saw an article where it said we're not even in the nice part of town and there's nothing on the menu that costs $1.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of crazy if you think about it that way. It's just prices keep going up, so you have to do what's best for you and your family. You really do. That's what you've got to focus on. What's best for you and your family. Know your needs, know your wants, know what you're spending. And we're not talking about deprivation or depriving yourself of the things you love to do. We're talking about sometimes you have to make a hard choice.
Sometimes you got to cut a few things out.
Sometimes you have to cut a few things. It might be temporary.
Yep.
And if you hit a really hard time, you might have to cut it all out.
Yeah.
But the goal here is to just make the best out of what you have and get the job done.
Totally. Yeah.
And once you're debt free, you've got that extra money to put towards savings and to go back to doing those things you want to do.
Yeah.
Especially if you have credit card debt or something like that. Like
Now, you know,
credit card debt is
it's outrageous, and especially with the interest rates, you know, most of them at least 17 to 25% range.
it's crazy how much they keep going up and up and up. I mean, I never thought I would see interest rates on things like that at 20%.
No.
Who would think you're paying 20 cents on the dollar that you borrow?
Yeah.
20 cents on that's loan shark. I mean, I don't know if, like, you're almost at that territory. If you're paying them that much back, you're at that point where it's like, and they want to keep you there because the more they keep you there, the
I
more
hate to
money.
see the loan sharking streets.
We laugh about it. It's scary.
I know.
And
it
a
is.
lot of people live in that, and that just it's frightening.
Yeah.
It is, and I can't. We want to help those people. We'll help you get out of it, and this is a good place to start. If you're scared of budgeting or anything like that, we have a video we put out a couple weeks ago. 5 easy steps you can take right now to start an easy budget. Start there. Simple steps. They're nothing. And part of it's here. Just know what you're spending. Know what's going in and out the door. And then it kind of helps you learn what to keep, what to cut. Based off you and your family. We can't tell you everything in your budget you should keep and cut because we don't know you. We don't know how you live your life. We don't know what's important to you in your life. Same way you don't know what's important to us in our life. saving money is important to us. So savings are automatically built into our budget. Books are important to me.
I was gonna say we've got books built into our budget.
Books are important to me. You've got no idea how many books I have. But that's something that is important to me, and I want it to be important to our little one, and I'm trying to get it to be important to Aaron. So we have a small budget for that, and we have the Audible for me. And that's okay, but I do know if something bad happened, all that's gone.
Oh, that's cut.
All of it's cut. Is gone. Like 100%, it is gone.
Yeah.
So, anything else sad?
You know, just sit down, look at it all, see what you've got going on. You know, just sort of starts making that list. Like I said, you know, that's my want, that's my need, and then after that, prioritize it. You know, it's gonna take some. I mean, maybe even you want a friend or family member to look at it and be like, okay, to me that's a want, you know, and
Tell me why it's a need.
yeah,
Explain to me why it's a need. You want somebody who's going to be a sounding board, not somebody
Yes.
just going to dictate to you
Right.
what you should and should have. Sounding boards are always good. That's a really good thing.
yeah.
That's a really good option for them. I'd
What
say
is-
mine's about the same. I would go with that and, prioritize and focus on you and your family. That's the most important. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you, as long as your family is fed, taken care of, clothed, clean, alive.
Yep.
Nobody else cares.
Yep.
No, nobody should care. It's nobody's business. As long
Right.
as you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're doing right by you and your family. It's nobody else's business.
Totally agree. Well, if you do have any comments you want to leave, you know, you can leave those on our YouTube where we've got the live, well, not live, but, you know, recorded going on here where you can watch if you're watching that. Make sure to leave those in the comments. If there's anything you want to send to us, you know, via an email, you can send that to thecannycouple@yahoo.com. Anything you want to hear in future episodes, send it there as well. And, you know, go over and check out our link tree, which has all of our social media links where you can find our content all over all the other social media sites.
And if you have any suggestions on how you could help make that list to prioritize, leave those in the comments or send us an email. We would love to share them. We'd also like to learn more from you. And as always, thank you for joining us on Rural Reliance with Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.